Hello, everybody. How are you? I want to welcome you to a new Shift Your Soul call. I also want to wish everybody a happy new year. I know we're a little into the year a little bit already, but want to wish everybody a very happy new year. Hope you got off to a good start, although today, which is why I selected this date, is the end of the Mercury retrograde, and this has been a kind of a rough start to the month. It's a little bit slow, and the energy was a little heavy and intense. And one of those things that kind of got us off to a little bit of a slow start here in January. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I'm glad, wanted to do this today. I picked this date because I thought it was a good kind of springboard into where we're going as we move forward the rest of this year and continue to grow and expand as we move forward. So this is a call that I drop in a couple of times a year. I haven't done one in a while. We were moving and a lot going on, so I haven't done one of these in some time. So I was looking forward to kind of jumping back in and getting started, helping everybody get off to a good start here for the year. And again, wanted to wait till today because we had this energy kind of ending, and we've got a lot of positivity coming our way in the next few days as we get ready for the end of this week where we have a super moon, and we'll have energy will start to open up and things will start to kind of loosen up a little bit. So I'm excited about that. I hope you are as well. So just quickly, for those of you who don't know me or don't know me well, I'll give you a little quick overview of myself and kind of some of the work that I've been doing for quite some time now. So I've been doing this work for many years. I've been doing it really probably at this point over 30 years, working with energy and really helping people identify and clear negative energy and really belief systems and kind of working through a lot of different areas. And of course, as we all evolve and do these different things and work on how we're going to go forward, how we're going to advance our lives, what are we going to do? We continue to evolve and learn more things and continue to expand ourselves. So these are all the things that, of course, we want to look at as we go forward and look at how we're going to move our own lives forward. As I said, I've been doing this for many, many years, but I started really as a business consultant, and this is something that kind of got me off to, that's where I started my career. I was in sales. I was working in sales and consulting and doing work like that. And then from there, I went on and, became a salesperson, became a sales manager, became a sales director. So really worked a lot in the corporate world. And then started to, went through my own struggles and issues as I was going through the process and started to then learn more about energy and healing myself as again, we all go through our own issues and the things that we're going through. So I started with therapy and then moved into learning about energy work and healing work and how to bring myself forward at a higher level. So as I continued to do that and I continued to move forward, I started to integrate those principles into my business work, into my sales work, the work that I was doing with companies. So over this period of time, all these years, I've written several books, actually 7, and I have another one coming out this year. I've spoken in front of, many events. I've done a lot of coaching. I do executive coaching. As I said, I work with companies as well. I do individual coaching and training with people, help people really working with the chakra system and helping people identify their blocks and showing them how to clear that energy out. So this is kind of the work that, like I said, that I've been doing for over 30 years. I just wanted to kind of give you a little context if you didn't know me and the work that I've been doing for a long period of time. So if you don't know me, I like to kind of get right into it. I'm not big on fluff. I'm originally a New Yorker. I'm coming to you live here from sunny Florida right now. But I like to get right into it. I don't like to really waste time. I know your time is very valuable, so I want to make sure that we hit the ground running here and make sure you off to a good start. But I'll give you a couple of things that I just want to go through before we get started. The first one is this is being recorded, so I'm going to record this session, and there are a couple of different ways you can interact. If you have questions, you could always email me later. But right now, if you would like to, there is a chat box on the right side of your screen. You can jump in there and throw a question in there. You'll also notice that there's a Q&A box on the right. You can just put your first name, and if you have a question later, you can put a question in at any time, and I'll get to those questions later on. And you'll also notice that there is, obviously on the phone, if you're on the phone, you can hit *2, and that will be a way for you to raise your hand and tell me that you want to ask a question. So those are 3 different ways you can interact. I will send out the recording a little bit later. We're going to render that and then put it out, so you'll be able to get this again and listen and download and be able to go through this a second time. A lot of people email me today or contact, I can't get there on live, I can't get on. Again, I don't know, depending on where you are in the world, obviously time zones and so forth. So don't worry, we are recording this for you. So just a couple of little cleanup there before we get started. So as I said, I like to get right into it. One of the things that I wanted to do before we got into our topic for today, which is your purpose is not what you think. What I want to do is talk a little bit about this coming year, 2023, what we can expect, what you could look forward to as we go into a new year. Every year, of course, carries its own energy and vibration. As I said earlier, we do have this week coming out of this retrograde. So what we did was we started the year on December 29th in a Mercury retrograde. So that energy was much slower and it was very intense. My wife and I were talking one day. She said, this energy is like slow and intense. And that was a great way to describe it, because really that's what it was. And that's how it's been to start off the year. And this was a time for us to really get off, kind of take a moment, take a breath, get off to a slower start, and also look at ourselves and say, where do I want to be this year? It's been a lot has happened, obviously, the last couple of years since 2020, starting with pandemics and so forth. So the idea here that we're able to now kind of step out of this a little bit, although, of course, it is still one of those things that it's still happening, obviously, but we've moved into a little bit of a different part of it. But so we got off to this slow start. Now, as we get to the end of this week, we're going to have this supermoon, as I said, which will be on Saturday, which is a new moon, supermoon. And you're going to start to really feel the intensity of that energy by Friday, and then when we have it, and then right after that, and things are going to start to pick up by the end of the month. So if you've noticed that you've been, I'm a little sluggish, or things haven't really moved too quickly, or, I'm not seeing results, or I'm not, things aren't moving quickly, don't worry about it. Things are going to start to loosen up. It's also an important time for you to really, like I said, go inside and look at yourself. So let's look at, like I said, a little bit at the difference of last year and this year. So 2022 was, looking at numerology, and I'm a big numerology buff, but looking at numerology, 2022 was a 6 year. So the way we do it is we take the number, we break it down to a single digit. So 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2, if you're looking at your screen, equals 6. So if you look at the number 6, and just the way it looks, it has the very big solid base and the little curl. It's actually, in some numerology, they actually compare it to the pregnant woman. So it's kind of like this very stable, solid base where we're able to, and that's really what this past year was. It was about really kind of stabilizing yourself, adjusting to all these different things. So much new energy has been coming in, and it's been that kind of year. It was that kind of a year to kind of adjust as we were kind of starting to move out of this energy and continuing to be barraged, by the way, with high energy and vibration. So all that was coming in, but last year was more of a let's settle into it and kind of determine where I want to go as I continue the journey. This year is very different. 2023, of course, is a 7 year. Now, if you look at the number 7, it's vastly different from the number 6, because the number 7 is open completely on one side, and it stands on one thin leg. Unlike the 6, which has the very big, solid base foundation, the 7 is this thin leg underneath with this open side. So the positive elements of the 7, and the 7 always in our culture is very lucky 7, lucky number 7, that's always been kind of associated with that number. And as I said, this is one of those things. It's a very, very different energy than the 6. So this is a very mystical number. It's altruistic. It's introspective. It's really about you elevating to your highest self. It's about you really knowing you. We're going to talk about this. That's why this topic came to me to do this now, because this is really what it's about. It's about really connecting to yourself. It's about that mysticism. It's about those abilities that we all have that we want to tap into. The negative side of it, again, because everything here in the third dimension is yin-yang, positive, negative. So there's always going to be a balance here, about two sides. So the negative side of the 7 is the desire to really isolate yourself. And I think a lot of us who do this work, especially, you're doing this work, you're working with a lot of different people, you're trying to deal with your own changes and your own issues and the things that are going on in your life, and it sometimes could be difficult to deal with people. So there's a tendency to want to isolate yourself and really kind of pull yourself in. So that's something you might have noticed, you may notice this year that you want to do. You might have even noticed that a little bit last year, because a lot of people, of course, with everything that was going on. There's also arrogance and ego in this 7. So be very careful. Be very aware of your judgment. That's going to be a big one. You don't want to be judging anybody. You don't want to, and again, everybody's here doing their own thing. That's what they're supposed to do. So let them do it. So be aware of those things. So again, focus on the positive side of this year, really connecting to yourself like you've never done before, and really being yourself and going through that and allowing yourself to go in the direction that you want to go in, and following really your inner guidance, which we'll talk about tonight as well. And finally, because of the 7 is the way it is, right, with that shape, we have to be very conscious of being balanced, because the 7 standing on that one leg has the tendency to go out of balance. So if you notice yourself saying, wow, I'm really getting like a hermit, or I'm really isolating myself too much, do something, get around some people, or, do something that's more social, or get out a little bit. If you notice you're pulling yourself too far to one side, if you notice yourself going too far to the other side, as far as you get caught up in yourself and what you're doing, you want to bring yourself back. So just look this year, very important to stay balanced as, again, all this energy comes in, and as we continue to elevate our vibration. This is going to be very important for this year, the balancing your energy and keeping yourself kind of in a good space. And again, if you feel tired, I know myself, a lot of people I spoke to early in the year, they would say, oh man, I'm so tired. I feel like I'm dizzy, or I have all these symptoms of this energy. You have to really honor this and take care of yourself and rest and sleep and do whatever you have to do. And if you feel better one day, that's great. Go out there and do what you're doing. But again, balance yourself out. That's going to be a really important part of 2023. So this is going to be a very exciting and positive year for a lot of people who are ready to expand. So if you're one of those people and you're ready to expand and you're ready to take yourself up a notch to a higher level, to another place, this is going to be a great year for you. For the people that are stuck in the physical world, for the people who are still very attached, they are going to have a rough year. They're going to have a hard time. They're going to be stuck. So be aware of this. Be aware of these things, to say to yourself, and again, if you see people struggling, you may see people and you may say, wow, they're very attached to the physical, and they're going through a difficult time. That's part of their journey. So that's what they had to go through, if that is the case. But this is kind of what you'll see this year. You will start to see it more and more as we get through. I think I'm feeling more like the first quarter of the year or so, we'll really start to see things start to really ramp up and go forward. So let's get into our topic, and I'm going to give this to you. Whenever I do these calls or these webinars, I just want to share with you information that's coming into me, and it comes to me in a certain way, and I like to just put it out there. I'm not a preacher. I don't want to preach. I don't want to tell anybody what to do. My goal is to give you a different way to look at things, a different way to kind of see the world, a different way to maybe see how you're dealing with something, and maybe something tonight will trigger you to say, yeah, I'd like to look at things in a different way, or help you kind of move yourself forward in a different direction, or maybe a way that will help you. So again, I'm here to just kind of put it out there and help you go forward. So the first, the question, of course, and this is one of those things that we've heard a million times: what is my purpose? Why am I here? What's going on? Like, what is it that I'm here to do? What is my purpose of life? Now, I will tell you, and we're going to go through this tonight, but I really feel like, as we evolve, and certain people you will see, they don't. And again, every soul is here having their own journey, but there are certain people who will remain in a very third-dimensional or physical world, and they will stay there their whole lives. And again, it doesn't make them a bad person. It's just a different journey than, say, you came to have to move into a different space. So if you look at yourself now, and you say, what was my purpose when I was in my early 20s, starting out? You come out of school, you're just kind of getting out there. I think we all have that 3D, so to speak, idea of what we've been taught. A lot of it is what we've been taught. Go out, get a job, get in a good company. When I was a kid, that's what, get in a good company. I'll never forget. I used to make a joke about it because now the world is so different. But when I was starting out and, coming out of the generations of people who had been through the Depression, my grandparents and parents. So being a baby boomer, we were kind of the beginning, and people would say, you get in a good job, get in a good company, make sure you get benefits, get in a good job. That's what you want to do, and then you could buy a house. And there was like these were the goals, right? These were the purpose. Get married, have kids, whatever it is that you thought you were supposed to do. So when you look at yourself at 22, let's say, for example, when you're kind of getting started. I started working early, but, most people. And then you look at yourself now, and if you looked at what your goals were then and what your goals were now, I'm sure you may say, wow, they're a lot different. My goals are a lot different than when I was younger. Now, what happens is, as you gain higher awareness, your perspective changes. So things that were very important to you 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it is, 30 years ago, for me, many years ago, those things that were really important to you are no longer important because your perspective has changed. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't have had those goals, or that's not something you should have been looking to do. But basically, you change because you start to see things differently as you elevate yourself and as you elevate your awareness and as you start to see the world from a different perspective. So what starts happening is, we start going from the 3D physical world, right, which is more of the attachment to the physical, meaning my goals were all directed at, money, cars, houses, this, that, whatever it was, more, having a certain position, having a certain title, and so forth. So those are your 3D attachments, that things that you thought were important. And again, they're not good or bad. They just are what they are. And there's nothing wrong with having these goals. Again, it doesn't mean that they're bad, but the attachment to it is where it creates problems for us. So as you ascend and you're starting to go more into a 5D, which is what we're doing now, we're going into this higher energy and dimension. As we're starting to get into this higher energy and vibration, all of a sudden those things become less important. Now, we are living in a physical world. So it doesn't mean that, I can't if I like a nice car or if I like a nice house, which, we're kind of homebodies. We always like to have a nice home to live in, and again, but it's not like my identity is attached to it. If I have friends who love cars, I'm not a car person. To me, it's four wheels and a brake. I don't care. But I have friends, they love that. They like to work on the cars. So again, it's not about liking it. It's about attachment. And that's where it becomes problematic. But what does happen as you start to elevate is your 3D goals, your goals that were very physical world, start to become less important. It's almost like you don't care. It doesn't have the same power, so to speak, over you, like having the certain job title and, having the certain, shoes or handbag or car or whatever it was. Those things are not, the appeal of those things starts to fade. And again, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy it, but it just changes. It's just not as important to you because you're looking to elevate internally. And elevating yourself internally, I will tell you, there is nothing in the physical world could ever compare to the way you will feel when you're bringing yourself up to a higher level of energy, awareness, peace, love, joy. Nothing that you could ever buy. Because what happens is, and the reason that this becomes an issue for people is they have a goal, they get something, and it's a letdown. After they get it, it's kind of like, oh, I got this thing. I was excited about it for a week. And now here I am back to square one. Right? Now I'm like, okay, now what? And I noticed this because as I grew up and started working in sales very early, and it was almost like you were working on a deal, you were putting all this energy into it, you were like did all the strategizing and negotiating, and when you finally got it, there was this excitement for a week or so, and then it was like, okay, I got to get to the next deal. And that's kind of what happens. So that's the shift that takes place. And that's kind of, and I'm sure a lot of you have already experienced this as you're going on your journey and as you're going forward. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to give you your purpose on 3 different levels. And this is kind of the way it came to me. And it was a way, I always like to break things into pieces because I think it's easier to explain it. It's also easier for us to digest it when I could bring it into pieces. So I'm going to go through 3 different levels of your purpose, and each one is going to be, the first 2 are personal to you. The third one is for all of us. So I'm just going to give it to you, like I said, a little bit of a different way of how your purpose works and what you're looking for. So the first level of your purpose is personal. This is for yourself, for your lifetime, is what you came to do in the physical 3D world. What did you come to do here in the world? Now, when you look at people that you know, and we know, obviously we see a lot of people who do different things in this lifetime, in their life, you came here to do certain things in this lifetime. So when you go through your process, you're going to say to yourself, okay, what did I come to do? What is it that I really came to do in the physical world? So when you see certain people like inventors, or when you see people who are great artists, or when you see people who are fantastic with numbers, or whatever the case may be, that is their thing. But that's what, so in the physical world, they came to build a building or build a bridge or invent something or whatever. That's what they came to do. That is their thing. We all came to do something here in the world, because obviously we're in the physical world. We're here to do something. We're not here to just, we don't have to do something, but usually most of us are here to do something. Now, the main part of this is you want to share your gifts. You've heard this before, but it's about really tapping into this now, really to say to yourself, okay, what is it that I'm supposed to share with others? Because that's really the third dimensional part of it. It's also emotional, but it's the third dimensional part of your life, to say, this is what I like, this is what I'm good at, this is what I love, and this is where I should go. So the idea is to say, I need to identify these. Now, a lot of people, you may know what they are. You may say, well, I know what they are. I don't, and I hear this a lot from people where they'll say, I know what they are, but I don't know what to do with them. Like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know, how do I do it? I love cooking. I love plants. I love animals, whatever. What do I do with it? So don't worry about that for the beginning. First, you want to make sure that you tap into your thing, right? You want to tap into the thing that you feel is good for you. And also, you want to look at a couple of indicators that are going to make your life a little easier. So it's something you love to do. Like there's certain things that you're so excited to do, and there's other things that you just hate to do. Everybody's like this, right? We're all like this. We all have these things going on. And certain things we do even though we don't like them, like, paying the bills or whatever the case may be. We don't like doing it, but we do it. But you know what I mean? When you have that excitement to doing something. I get excited when I do this. I always get excited when I do a class. I always get excited when I write a book. I always get excited when I'm teaching. I always get excited when I help somebody and they send me a message the next, could be, I get messages sometimes from people from years ago. Oh, Joe, thank you so much. I'm still using that thing that you showed me and it's helping me. So again, it comes easy. It has to come easy to you. The skill will come easy. You won't struggle. And this is also something. Now, understand something. Just because the skill comes easy to you doesn't mean it will be easy for you to utilize it in the physical world, because you sometimes have to go through a process. Now, some people, and again, this is different for each person. There are certain people who we see, they're like prodigies, or even people who just, that like very early on, they kind of knew what they wanted to do. They got into it. It worked. Everything worked out. They were successful. Or they were happy and they did it. And that happens, right? Sometimes. Other people, like myself and many of us, that was not the case. We had to take a while to kind of understand what we wanted to do, or what we were good at, or what we really felt was in alignment with us. And then we had to try to, what do I do with it? How do I use it? So that may be a process that you have to go through. This is what I like. I like cooking. I like this. I like, like I said, I like plants. I like working with animals, whatever that may be. But again, the skill set must come easy to you. You'll notice that it comes easy to you, and that is a big indicator. So you don't want to do things. I'm not a handy person. I'll tell you right now. We have a guy coming tomorrow to do work on the house. It is not my thing. I'm not good at it, and truthfully, I hate doing it. Hate, and I use that word often, but I really don't like doing it. It brings me no joy. I have other people I know that, first of all, they're unbelievably handy, but even I have friends. They want to work around the house. They like to fix stuff. I don't. So that you got to own it. You know what I mean? Say, yeah, I don't like this. This is what I really like to do, and go forward. Now, the thing that's going to stop you, of course, is fear, because you're going to be afraid sometimes because say, well, this is what I want to do. I want to write a book, or I want to be a painter, or I want to do voiceovers, or whatever it is. I had somebody who, I work with who wanted to do voiceovers. So I said, all right, well, start looking into it. You got to you got to start moving your energy. I want to be an actor, whatever you want to do, right? If you want to go into business, whatever you feel like, that you have to start moving your energy in that direction. And like I said, as you continue to move in that direction, things will start to come to you. You're not going to get it all at once. But the fear is what really stops people, because they start thinking too much and say, oh, how am I going to, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too this, I'm too that. So you start overthinking it. So don't think about it. Just say to yourself, this is what I like. I'm going to start moving in this direction. This is an organic process. You know what I mean? It's not okay, I have to be done by a certain time and I have to do these steps in this way. You may start moving in the direction and start being taken in even other directions that you didn't even think about. So don't put all this pressure on yourself that you have to do it and make it work and do it this way. I have 3 months to do it and all this. You're going to drive yourself crazy. So the fear will come from your mind. That's going to bring up, which we all have fears. It's going to bring up all these things that you want to give up. So don't allow that fear to come through. And then you have to trust. This is a big one for us. I know it was certainly a big one for me. You have to trust yourself. And if you grew up in an environment where you did not learn to trust yourself, I will tell you that it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be a really difficult thing to do, because you didn't trust who you were. You didn't trust yourself. You didn't grow up in that process. You didn't grow up in that process of trusting who you were. And, it's hard all of a sudden to say, and you have that second guessing. Oh, wow. I'm feeling like this, but I never got support at home or growing up or with my parents. And now every time I think of something or have an idea or I want to go in a certain direction, I don't trust myself. I don't have trust for myself because I never had that support. So this is practice. So you have to start to say, yeah, I'm going to trust myself and allow myself to go in that direction that I feel good about. And don't think about it too much. I will tell you, if you think about it a lot, that is going to be problematic for you, because the thinking is the thing that really gets us in trouble. We start to overthink it instead of just starting to move in the direction. Just start moving there and don't overthink it. Don't kind of give it too much thought, because it's going to cause you trouble. So that is your first one, level 1, which is what you came to do in the physical. So level 2 is your emotional journey. This is a big one tied to your karmic journey. So this is going to be the key for everything, because what you do in the physical is going to feed off of this. But this is also your personal emotional journey will be different than mine, right? You came to go through a series of emotions and feelings. We all did. And your journey emotionally, you're going to build out a life that is designed for you to feel certain feelings and emotions at a certain level. Now, you have to understand, we all have the same emotions and the same feelings, but we all come here to go on a journey to deal with different issues, which is the way your life is kind of laid out for you. So part of that journey is what you came to do in the physical world, but the emotional component is going to be the key driver to everything you're going to do going forward. And everybody came to do something different. So this world is a world of yin-yang energy. So it's positive, negative. So certain people came to what we would look at as they came to be in the negative side or in the negative space. And what I mean by that is they came to do things that we would look at as negative. They came to be drug addicts. They came to be alcoholics. They came to be murderers. They came to be dictators. Now, I know when I say this, people say, oh, my God, what are you talking about? How could anyone come to do that? That's what this world is. So your soul, I want you to think of your soul. Your soul came here, again, in doing this work, we believe in past lives, coming back many times. And your soul wants to come back each time and have a different experience. So one time you're going to come and be, Sir Lancelot and save everybody. And another time you're going to come and you're not. You're going to be the bad guy. So that's what your soul came to do. So your soul came to have that experience, and your soul each time came to do something different. So the bottom line is you came here to feel emotions. So when you feel your feelings and you allow yourself to do that, that's when you start to move forward and when you start to elevate yourself. That's when you start to bring yourself to a higher place, when you allow yourself to feel. Now, I will tell you, doing this work and starting out, I really was very shut down because I grew up in an environment where that was not allowed. I was not really allowed to feel my feelings. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. So the idea behind it is you came to feel these emotions and these feelings, but if you grew up in an environment where you were not allowed to do that, or it was you just were afraid to do it based on how you felt, then of course it becomes difficult. So again, when I started doing the work, I had to kind of say, okay, I'm going to let myself feel this feeling. And the key is you want to feel the feeling with no judgment, right? So that's how you're going to go through it. So you're going to say, whatever feeling you have, don't label it as good or bad. Just say to yourself, okay, that's the feeling I'm having right now. That's the way your soul speaks to you, by the way, speaks to you through your emotions and your feelings. So you want to say, right now, this is the feeling I'm having, and I have to let myself feel it. And that's what leads to you being able to clear that energy, which we're not going to have time to do tonight, but that's the beginning of the process of taking yourself up a notch. Now, the other thing is, in order to have the emotional experience, I have to have ups and downs. So it's basically like a roller coaster ride, right? I go up, I go down, I go up, I go down, because if I'm feeling good all the time, I can't feel negatives because I'm feeling good all the time, right? I'm always feeling happy. I'm always feeling good. I'm not going to feel anything, right? I'm not going to feel because there is no opposite feeling. So you need both. So what happens as you go through the work and as you start to get closer to who you're supposed to be, the roller coaster ride starts to slow down where you don't have these extreme spikes. And I think that was one of the things that was most exciting doing the work, that as you go forward, I noticed myself, and I said, wow, I'm noticing that as I'm going forward and as I'm doing more work, the extremes are not there anymore. The extreme ups and downs, the extreme, going from one extreme to the other and going through issues. And for me, it was, whether it's depending on what you came to do in your life, it could be physical issues where you were physically sick. It could be financial. It could be relationships, whatever it is, and going through these ups and downs. And then little by little, they start to slow down. And you say, okay, well, I had a little up and a down, but it's not as extreme because that means that you're evolving. And that's what you're looking for. So again, this is part of your journey, the second part, which is the emotional experience. Now, you have to remember that feeling good and feeling happy is our natural state of being. I know that that's hard to believe because a lot of us, we see people on antidepressants and drugs and everything that's going on here. But our pure state, when we're in our pure state, is really happiness, joy, and love. So that's why that feeling is so easy, right? It's an easy feeling because you just slide right into it. It's not difficult. It's not hard. It's easy. But we also came to feel the other side, right? What we would call the dark side. So we also came to feel unworthy or unimportant, undeserving, unaccepted. And there are three really powerful anchoring feelings that I always work with people on, because I think those are really the ones where we see the biggest shifts take place, which really are going to be guilt, shame, and fear. Guilt is very powerful. That feeling of guilt that you did something wrong, or you're doing something wrong, or whatever the case may be. And again, people use that as a tool to manipulate you. Companies use it, bosses use it, parents use it to make you feel bad about yourself. This is a very powerful tool that is used. And again, we absorb a lot of guilt as we grow up. Shame is another one, because the feeling of being shamed or feeling ashamed, you ever hear people say you should be ashamed of yourself? And, we've had this all the time. Oh, you should be doing this. You should be doing better. You're not doing this. You're not calling me enough. You're not, whatever it is, that constant shaming, again, takes a lot out of us, because it really lowers our energy when we are constantly in that environment. And what we'll do, what your soul is going to do, the way your soul speaks to you is, it says, hey, Joe, you're refusing to feel this. You're going to keep creating, and you're creating it with your own energy and vibration. You're going to keep creating situations to bring you into guilt or shame or fear or feeling unworthy or feeling unappreciated or feeling unaccepted, because you're not letting yourself feel that. And it's kind of counterintuitive to a degree, because I think we look at it and say, well, I don't want to feel like a loser. I don't want to feel like a failure. I don't want to feel guilt. I don't want to feel that. But by not feeling it, you're actually, in effect, expanding it, because you're not dealing with it. It's like something you're not dealing with. So the key is learning to say, okay, I do feel this right now. I need to let myself feel it so I could let it go. So the guilt, the shame, the fear, be very aware of those three, because those are going to be the three that are really going to be the most impactful for your life, where you're going to feel those. So just, again, notice it. Say, wow, I feel so guilty. Why? Like, where did this come from? And you'll notice it'll come from something, a belief you have, or the way you grew up, or something that happened to you when you were a kid. And the same thing with shame. Now, fear, of course, which we have. And, fear, I think, gets a bad rap, because we need fear. Fear also stops us from doing something, foolish, right? It stops me from running into the street in Manhattan and getting run over, right? So that I should be afraid to do that. So there are certain fears that are good here to protect us. But a lot of the fears we have are in our mind and emotional, and they stop us from going forward. So they stop us from moving ourselves to where we want to go. So those irrational fears that we have, those are the fears we want to deal with. Or if you grew up in a very fear-based environment where every time you wanted to do something, you were told, don't do that, that's too risky, don't go, whatever it was, that's going to create problems, right? And now in your mind, even though you're saying, well, I want to do this, or I feel like this, like I said earlier with your first one, which is sharing your gifts, well, I feel like I want to do this, but in the back of my mind, I keep hearing that voice of my mother or my father, whatever, say, oh, you can't do that, or you're not smart enough, or we don't have the money, or whatever, and bringing up all the fears. So be aware of these three. I'm telling you now, if you just look at the guilt, shame, and fear, those three will be very powerful, that you'll be able to start dissolving those out, and that will have a dramatic impact on your life. So that is part 2 of your purpose. So part 1 is what you came here to do in the physical world, the 3D world. Part 2 is your emotional journey. That's your journey. Your journey is different than mine. You might have come to feel an intensity of a certain feeling completely differently than I did. It's not right or wrong. It's just your journey. So the final one, which is really where I think we're going as people, and I think this is going to be the thing that's going to help all of us. And as we collectively do the work on ourselves, we're moving ourselves to a higher place. But this, to me, is the one that it really is for all of us. And it's the part of our purpose that I think we want to really focus on this year, especially in 2023. And level 3, which is for all of us, is be the best version of yourself. Now, what's important about this is the best version of you is different than the best version of me. It's a different thing. And one of the things that's important is to be the best version of yourself. You have to understand that you have to kind of sit in that space and understand who you are, know your strengths, know what you're good at, own those things, and also accept what you're not good at, right? This is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is who I am. This is me. Again, there's no judgment. It's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It is what it is, right? This is you. And think about what the world would be like if everybody would just be the best version of themselves. It's not about accomplishing anything. It's not about what you do. It's not about what you have. It's just about you being your best version of you. And when you're doing that, you're in an extraordinarily high energy vibration. And when you're in that high vibration, you're going to start manifesting and bringing things into your life because you're in that high space. But again, you have to go through your emotional journey. You're also going to look to share your gifts and pull it all together. But I'll tell you a funny story. Earlier last year, and I was working at a corporate client, and I was doing sales training for the company, and I was in the hallway talking to somebody, and just having a conversation. So this guy walked by, who I knew who he was because he was a manager there, and as we're talking, he walks by, he kind of stopped, and he looked at me, he said, "I want to tell you something. You're very loud." And now, I will tell you, the old me would have gone into a shame-based defensive posture. I would say, "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I was too loud." And he said it to me. He said, "You're very loud." And I said, "Thank you so much." And the guy just kind of physically, I'm going to tell you what happened. He actually stepped back because it shocked him, I think. But the energy, my energy of this is me. And this is, yes, I am very loud. That is part of why I'm good at what I do, which is speak and train and coach. And being loud at certain times is part of it, or projecting your voice, or whatever you want to call it. It's like a singer who's loud, right? So this is part of getting out of that shame base of, hey, this is me. Now, listen, we all want to be the best version. There are certain things you may say, I don't want to be loud all the time, because that's not a good thing either, right? There's certain times I don't want to be loud, but I'm in the middle of working and I'm talking and, we're having a conversation and everybody's, so to me, that was in a place to contain myself, so to speak. So this is something that you have to embrace, right? So the idea is embrace yourself. And self-love is such a critical part of our healing process. And you can't have self-love if you're not in full acceptance of who you are. You have to accept who you are as a person. This is who I am. And yes, I have flaws. No, nobody doesn't, right? Yes, I have flaws. Yes, I do things that, I don't do everything perfectly. I have my own issues. I have my own flaws. I have my own problems, like we all do. But the bottom line is, I need to love myself, warts and all. Right? This is me. Yeah, I'm great with these things. I'm working on these things. I have issues. I understand it. But the critical piece of the puzzle is to embrace who you are and do it every day. And the reason it's important that you love yourself every day and embrace yourself, embrace you. And the reason that that's critical is because it starts to penetrate into your soul. And it starts to bring you to an entirely different level of energy, feeling, everything. And it also brings you, I will tell you, when you're not fighting yourself and you're not trying to defend yourself and you're not being ashamed of yourself, it brings you to a place that's much more peaceful because you're no longer battling yourself, which is what you don't want to do, right? You don't want to be battling yourself. It's not something that you want to do as you go forward. So as you continue, you end up in a space where you're going to have power, but not ego. Okay, so you're going to have power without the ego part. And that is the trick here. Because I think we think of power, we all have our own way of seeing power, but we want to look at it and say, I want to have power, I don't need the ego. Now again, we need an ego identity to have our experience here in this world, in the physical world here on earth, but I don't want to have a negative ego. So I'm going to be powerful in my own self. Like I said, you are who you are. You're great at this. This is who you are. You have certain things that make you who you are. And you're going to love that about yourself. And you're going to have the power within yourself. There's no apologies. There's no shame. There's no guilt. There's no fear. It's just, this is who I am. I'm going to hold that power. I'm going to hold that space, but I don't need the ego part. See, the ego part is where we start to create the attachment, and then that's where we get in trouble. So this is a very slippery slope to walk down this road of power without ego, where I'm going to be the best version of myself. I'm going to be confident in who I am and what I'm able to do and what I can create here in the world and what I can share, but I don't do it from an egoic base, meaning I don't have to be better than anybody. I don't compare myself to anybody. I'm just doing my thing. There's no reason to compare yourself to anyone. One of the things when I go into corporate and I tell these people there's no competition, it doesn't exist. They say, what are you talking about? Look at we got all these competitors and we're trying to beat them out. I said, it doesn't exist. I said, it's something that the ego has created to create conflict, right? That's really what it's about, right? Competition is really only there to my eyes, to make us better. Hey, if there's 2 companies making the same product or 20 companies making the same product and they want to be successful, they're going to do everything they can to make the best product, which is serving us, right? Serving us and helping us, because then we're able to get a better product. But it doesn't have to be competition. Just be your best. And that's it. There was a coach of the UCLA Bruins basketball team, and his name is John Wooden. He won the most championships of anyone in college at all time. And this is going way back into the 50s and 60s and 70s, actually. He was there a long time. And one of the things, I was reading a book about him, and they talked to all his players. And one of the things that his players said that was amazing about him, they said he never talked about the other team. All he ever did was focus on what we had to do to be successful, which was run our plays, play our game, do our best, that's it, and then we'll get the outcome we desire. But he said he never talked about the other team. He never talked about better or worse. He just focused only on us, always just doing our best and doing everything we were doing and bringing our best effort forward. And then whatever happens, happens. So this is a great approach, right? I'm just going to be my best self. I'm going to put everything out there the best way I possibly can. I don't have to worry about competition or ego or who else is doing it or everything else. I just have to be in that space and then follow through on things. Hey, maybe an opportunity comes to you, then these are things that we need to do in the physical world. That's when we get back to the physical world. Wow, I wanted to do this, and I'm taking steps to move my energy in that direction. Now an opportunity came to me. Yes, you have to then execute, right? That's part of the physical world that we live in. So someone can come to you and say, listen, I got this great idea, or this is something you love to do. We could put this together. You have to then step into that opportunity. And a lot of times people don't. I've seen it a million times, where all of a sudden people are saying, oh, yeah, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do. And then it comes to them and they don't do it. Why? They're afraid. They don't think they could do it. They don't think they're capable. They're afraid of having money. There's a million different issues, but you still have to do your part here as a human in the physical world. So those are going to be your 3 areas of your purpose. Again, the first one is, what are you here to do in the physical? Connected to your gifts and what you're here to share. Your emotional journey, which, as I said, will be up and down. It's going to be an up and down journey, but little by little, as you do more work on yourself, you will notice that it will become easier. It will become easier because you'll be able to identify things and move past them quickly, as opposed to having those extreme spikes. And then finally, just be your best self. Be the best version. See, this is the word that's important for me. I'm very funny with the words. It's being the best version of yourself, not myself. That's why you don't compare yourself to anyone. You don't worry about competition. You don't worry about it, because your version of yours, nobody else can be you at your highest level. Only you can be you at your highest level. So those are the things I wanted to share with you tonight. I hope you found this to be helpful. I hope it just maybe gave you a little way to think of things a little bit differently in your life and take you forward. If you have any questions, I actually was supposed to be taking this month off, but you see I'm doing a bad job. I'll be starting to do sessions and work again next month, but if you have any questions, you can email me, or I'll be, as I said, starting to do coaching and programs starting in February But you can check out my website if you haven't been there. It's joenunz.com, so JOENUNZ.com. You go on there, you'll also see that I have a membership program called Higher Ground, where you do a 15-day free trial. It's really an ongoing coaching program, very lower, inexpensive program, just to help people kind of stay in the game and keep that consistency going. You can check that out at highergroundnow.com. And I also do a call on the first Saturday of every month, and that's part of that membership, by the way, or you can get it individually. And the next one will be on Saturday, February 4th. It's the first Saturday of the month each month. Our topic for the next call is going to be nature, nurture, or karma. So that'll be an interesting one about, we've, of course, heard the nature-nurture argument, but we're going to add karma into the mix. And you can see more about that at spiritualsaturdays.com. If you like, you can check that out, and you'll be able to, again, check it out. If you have any questions, again, like I said, email me back. Certainly get back to me. Let me see. I do have a question here in the queue. As I said, I'm going to email this out. If you think of a question later, feel free to email it over to me. But I have a question from Emily, and she said, what kind of energy work do you do to clear the chakras? Great question, Emily. I actually learned how to do it through identification of the issue and then clearing it through a meditation process. So that's the way I've done it over the years. And, it's one of those things. It's a process. And my goal when I work with people is to empower you by giving you that process so that you can do it yourself. That's really the goal. And that should be the goal of people you work with, that they want to empower you. They want to help you, go to a higher level. They want to empower you and take you into a higher place. Thank you, Josh. That was awesome. I appreciate that. And I got another question here from Tim. Tim said, thank you, Joe. Great stuff. I definitely have the fear issue. I often think of things I want to do and I get paralyzed. Is there anything I can do to move forward? Yeah, you know what, Tim? I would say this. I think that's, that's common. I think, it's these fears that we all have. At first, I would say accept that you have fear. That's okay. You're allowed to have fear in your life as far as, we all have it. But just start to, I think it's important not to think of it as I have to make this big leap. Think of it more as how do I just start to move forward? Just start. Maybe you want to read a book about it. Maybe you want to go to a class. Maybe you know people that you could talk to that can help you out or give you some insights. So just start to move in that direction. Don't think about because like I said, the thinking is a bad thing because it starts taking us into a place where we start thinking of everything that could go wrong, just kind of the way we are. And the better thing to do is just kind of look at it and say, okay, that's fine. This is something I really like. I'm going to start looking into it. I'm going to start moving in that direction. I'm going to start going down that road. This is a question here from Joan, and she said, I find the emotional part of the work very interesting. I've been very shut down growing up. How do I start to open myself up to feel more emotion? It's a practice thing. I think you have to work on it and first of all, the awareness that you're not, feeling. And I certainly think when I first started doing it, I don't know if I was even aware of it, but really getting more into the feeling of what do you feel like? What are you feeling at the moment? Just being more conscious of what you feel at a certain time, and that will help you start to kind of crack the shell, so to speak, and start to open up what you feel and give you that opportunity to then say, let me take some quiet time. Like when something happens with the person or with yourself, or you just wake up and you feel something, take a moment, sit quietly, allow yourself to say, what am I really feeling here? What's really going on? And that's a great starting point, and that's a great way, to get you started as you go out and go down the road. So it's a slow process. Like I said, it's kind of like anything. It starts slow, but it starts to move very quickly as you build momentum. Because like anything in life, you start building momentum and things start to move much, much faster. So that's definitely something that will happen. And people say, oh, it takes so long. I said, no. As you do it, the more you do it, it's like anything in life. You start getting better at it, and you get to learn how to move through the feelings much faster. So I want to thank everybody so much for being with me and being here tonight. I hope this was helpful for you to kick you off to a good start. Don't forget, check out that super full moon on Saturday, and it's going to be a real kickoff for our energy going forward. So be blessed. Have a great year if I don't see you again, but hopefully I will, and we'll keep the train moving. Take care now.